Also, wait, okay, you guys are in. So, hi everyone. Welcome to an alumni panel with some of my Georgia Tech, like some of my fellow Georgia Tech alumni, some of my friends here, some of my roommates. I'm gonna wait a little bit to give some more time for people to join in. So we'll start in a few minutes, but I'll introduce them as we go. Once we start, so I'll just give everyone a few minutes. I know there was that last webinar and like just ended like really recently, so I'll give some people like a little bit. I'll start in like 2 minutes ish. All right. I think we can get started. I think one of the last person that was going to join said they're going to be a few minutes late, so we'll have him do an introduction when he joins. He can deal with that. But yeah, so just introduce myself again. I'm Mehar. In terms of Georgia Tech, because we're all Georgia Tech alumni, I'm a first-year student, and I study computer science.
Do we introduce ourselves now?
Yeah, you can introduce yourself, if you wish.
Yeah, so like Mehar, I'm a CS student at Georgia Tech. I'm going to be a second year. And yeah, I'm excited to talk with you all.
Cool. What's up, guys? My name is Viveek Banerjee. I'm the same year as these two guys here. But unlike them, I'm an aerospace engineering major at Georgia Tech.
Okay. And by the way, like if you guys have any questions to ask us about like Georgia Tech or anything, just ask them in the chat or ask Q&A, and we'll answer them as we go along. Yeah. So I guess the first question that I sort of want to ask, or sort of like to introduce, is something that a lot of people want to know is sort of how was our first years here? Because we're all first years, we all just like went through 1 year here. So just like generally about our first years, I can start. So basically, like my first year Georgia Tech, it was pretty interesting because like not only is it like a different city for all of us, none of us are from Georgia itself, so it's a different city, it's a new experience. But also, like going to, at least for me, I came from like my high school has had like a lot of different people. I know they can talk more about like the magnet high school they went to. Like coming to a school that was like entirely tech focused is very interesting because I'm used to having like a weird, like a large variety of people there. A lot of people who were really focused in tech. I thought that was pretty interesting, and also just it was a great college experience. Great to see like meet a lot of people who were like interested in the same things that I were and taking like interesting classes the same way that I wanted. So yeah, Akilesh, continue on that if you want.
Yeah, so like Georgia Tech was definitely like quite challenging. I feel like for me, because like all these different people are coming together, and we see like everyone's like on a different track in a way. Like even within the major, like people are taking different classes, and I think that's fine because there's like a lot of interdisciplinary sort of action going on there, and we gotta like sort of like explore other people's interests together. And me coming from like a suburban area into like an urban area, which is where the Georgia Tech campus is, that was really a new shift for me. So yeah, like overall, it was like interesting for me to just understand like the environment, like getting used to a new environment in Georgia Tech, and then also like exploring new classes because it's like really different from high school.
Yeah, and so I would probably echo a lot of the thoughts that Keelish was saying, because actually me and Keelish are from the same area. So we both came from, again, that like suburban area to, in the heart of, or I suppose it's the campus is a little more, was it north or south of the main heart of the
Mid.
city?
I don't know what mid is,
Yeah,
but
somewhere, but it's like toward the edge of the city. So I think one of the nice things about campuses that although it's right next to Atlanta, there's a lot of like green spaces and a lot of places where you can just hang out, in the sunshine. It does get pretty hot there. So you can hang out there, play frisbee, just like relax there. I guess like in terms of academics, it's definitely fairly challenging. I think it takes a good amount of time management um, and just like keeping up with your course load. Uh, I think I think it's very helpful to sort of try to meet a lot of different people, so people that are not just in your major, um, and that allows you to get a lot of perspectives on a lot of different topics and just grow as an individual. So, yeah, I would highly recommend doing that, attending a lot of the events that are on campus. Um, and so, yeah.
I guess Tarun, if you want to like introduce yourself and talk a little bit about like what your first year. This is my roommate, by the way. My first year, Tarun. You can introduce yourself and talk a little about how your first year went, like thoughts about it.
Yeah, so I'm true. I'm sorry for running a little bit late. I had to go somewhere before this, but I'm here now. But Georgia Tech, even though it sounds like a scary school, if as what Avik was saying, if you time manage properly, it is very much manageable. In my opinion, high school is way harder than Georgia Tech. That's just me. But I feel like if you time manage properly, you can do well. The main thing you have to realize is that college is scary when you first started, but give or take 2 weeks, you will be basically it'll be a routine. So you shouldn't be too scared about that. And a big thing is planning your classes out. If in high school you were just given classes, you can't choose your teacher, nothing like that. But in college, it's up to you to choose the correct teacher, the easiest teacher, honestly, and make sure you choose a course load that's valid. Like if you take like a million classes, it's going to be really hard. Or if you take a few classes but with the hardest teachers, it's also going to be really hard. So there's a balance between taking a good amount of classes and also pick the easiest teachers, and that's like a really big difference in college. That you have more freedom to choose stuff, and also like going to classes, for example, right? Like you can manage your classes times. Like some classes you can do online, some you can do in person. So yeah, there's a lot of freedom you have, and that gives you a lot of choices to make sure. Like some classes you don't have to go to, it's really easy. Like I know, Keyless, we had the freshman leap class for CS, right? That
Yeah.
class, you could honestly not go to it, and by doing that, you have more time for your other classes, for example. So you have to manage your time properly, and also if you go to a class which you have to go to, and if you don't go to it, you're missing out. So like you have freedom and flexibility, so you have a lot of power, but you can misuse it really easily. So you should be careful about that.
Yeah, definitely. Because like a lot of the same points that I want to echo is like going to like choosing what classes to go to is like you might be like, oh, I have to go to every single one of my classes, but there's a lot of like your classes that not honestly like, time for that. Like you can if you want to, but you'll save a lot more time if you like focus on the ones you actually care about. Like, focus on the ones that are mandatory or the ones like you actually need to lecture for, and then other ones that like all the materials online, you can like take those on your own pace. I guess the next question that I wanted to sort of ask was sort of on the lines of what Avik was saying, in terms of like clubs and meeting other people within your major and stuff like that. How do you guys? Like, what are your guys' experiences with like clubs, meeting other people within your majors? I know for me, I like a lot of my classes in my first like 2 semesters were sort of gen ed classes, so there was people from like pretty much every major in them. There's a lot of CS students, obviously, but there's also students from like every different other majors and like history classes with like business people. And I think especially my foreign language class as well, like meeting a lot of those people was not only like just fun for making friends. Like you making friends outside your major is pretty fun because like you have different things to talk about. You're not all talking about the same exact class, same exact problems. You also have like different perspectives. But it's also nice to have just have like the sort of connections. Like if you want to ever work on a research project or something, and you want to work with someone or make like a business idea, you want to work with someone outside your major, then you have those people available for you. So I think definitely like in your gen ed classes or in other places, in like any college, it's not just Georgia Tech specific, but just talking to people outside your major is really important. I guess like more on like clubs and other stuff like that. I'd be curious to start that.
Yeah, so I was like part of this data science club at Georgia Tech, and I got to meet a lot of like cool people there. So like I sort of learned a lot more stuff relating to machine learning, AI, and like natural language processing and stuff. It sounds technical, but like I was a beginner in that, and there were seniors and other people I could look out for, look to like learn these skills. And besides that, like there's a lot of different people you can meet outside the clubs if you just like go outside. Um, I think uh, in the beginning we were like meeting a lot of people in the dining halls. Um, so yeah, like that's like a food is like a common sort of thing you could socialize around. And like we met a lot of cool people that we still talk to towards like the end of the year also. Um, so yeah, like I think like that was the one club I was in like in college pretty much. In high school, I did like a lot more clubs, and I think it's not necessary. Like the importance we place on clubs in high school doesn't necessarily translate. Like it's not the same in college because anyone could do anything, and like for example, leadership positions are not necessarily valued anymore. It's something that people do actually as a hobby.
I can go next. I want to say Akil's made a really good point. In high school, clubs are really good for college apps. Like college apps love clubs. Jobs don't care what clubs you take. I'm gonna be 100 in college at least, right? So the clubs you take in college are something you do because you enjoy it. In college, in high school, you do it because it's good for college apps. All right, I'm gonna be 100% honest. Jobs don't care. So you can make friends through clubs. That's a really easy way because everyone in your club has the same shared interest. Also, if you take like a CS class, for example, and make friends there, you can get into like their friend groups relatively easily. I wanted to slightly deviate and mention something Mehar said. So Mehar mentioned gen eds. One thing I will tell everyone is you can skip out of gen eds by just taking community college classes for like half the cost. Like I took over like 20 different community college classes and it was much cheaper than taking it at Georgia Tech. So you guys can look into that and see like community college classes are really off because sometimes they transfer over and you can check if they transfer beforehand. And if they transfer, they're going to be easier than taking at Georgia Tech. So you could always take it there, transfer, or maybe graduate early. 'Cause all of us here are graduating early, and we all came in with a bunch of AP classes or community college classes. So yeah, community college classes kind of op. So look into that.
So I guess like in terms of clubs, I would slightly disagree with Tarun. Oh yeah. No, so I think like I'm not sure how it is for computer science majors, but in terms of like a lot of the engineering majors, I think clubs are very useful for getting a lot of the hands-on like technical work. Like I was part of like a rocketry team called GTXR, and I know at Georgia Tech they also have another rocketry team called YSP. You can get a lot of experience hands-on working with a lot of the machines in the maker spaces, managing budgets, like especially if you're in a leadership position. But really, what you get out of the club really depends on how much time you put into it. So obviously, like if you dedicate more time to it, you're going to get a lot more out of it. But I do agree that there is a lot less value placed on being in a club, and you should more so do it for learning and as a hobby than just do it for padding your resume, for example. So yeah, I definitely treat that as a hobby and a place to sort of socialize, learn, and have fun.
Yeah, I think like another good point to mention is like there's not just like tech-based clubs. It's not just like job clubs related to your job. There's like literally clubs for anything. There's like a club to eating lettuce. I don't know if you're into that. Like there's literally clubs for like everything you can imagine, like dance, media, finance, like literature, anything like anything you could ever think of. There's a club where you can make a club for it. So it's not like you just have to do it for something like you're interested in for like your career. You can just do it you enjoy doing, or something like you want to have a pastime. Like after you come out from classes, you want to go to a club and like just hang out with people and like play Smash or something. Like there's clubs for everything that you want to do, and it's all of them have like a group of people like connected to them, and you'll find people there no matter what you do.
Mia, you were in the anime club, right?
I looked at some of them. I didn't go to any meetings because of time. But I guess another question I want to ask, sort of like on that same relation to it, was how do you feel the sort of environment was, given that it is a tech school? Like I know that, like I talked about before, I met a lot of different people in my Jedi classes, but it was still pretty obvious to me that in a tech school, a lot of them were like sort of tech oriented. Do you feel that you sort of missed out on some like interaction you get like another school where you'd see people from like a lot of different majors that weren't just tech, or do you feel that this is like sort of value in having a lot of people there that are all tech related and that are like have a similar mindset to you? Anybody wants to take that up?
So I think if you like go to like tech focused clubs in these areas, you can find those like-minded people. But generally, my experience of tech was that it was a pretty diverse school, and you can meet all kinds of people there. It doesn't feel like only a tech school. Definitely, like the focus is on STEM and everything related to that. Um, but like you can definitely find like other types of people, and it's not only like tech.
At least speaking to Georgia Tech, for example, they're an extremely selective school, being pretty high up in the ranks. So everyone you see is going to be extremely smart in their own thing. Maybe not tech, but at least they'll be something. They'll be really good at something. All right. So I know, like, if you go to another school, for example, right, that isn't like as selective as tech, you might have like a more like diverse group, like people in terms of skill levels. But at least at Georgia Tech, everyone's extremely smart in their own thing. So like, you might have been the best locally here. When you go there, now you're no longer the best. You're probably going to be mid, even though you're like valedictorian. You're gonna be like going down a few ranks. But that's a good thing because you see people who are like, it's a very diverse school. Again, Georgia Tech is not a party school, so if you wanted that, I'm sorry, you're not gonna really get that. But I mean, the school, if you go to the school, you can know beforehand what kind of school it is. So it's still diverse. But keep in mind, as it's still a tech school, you'll have a diverse amount of people, but like it's still really smart people who are going there, versus like a community college school, for example, right? So do have like just know that beforehand. I mean, you can research your college beforehand, so it shouldn't be too much of a surprise what kind of school you go into.
Yeah, and so pretty much, I would say a lot of the similar things that Akhilesh and Tarun just mentioned. So yeah, like it's definitely very STEM oriented. Though there are a lot of opportunities to like explore other things as well. Again, like through the clubs and through electives. But yeah, again, the focus is definitely, I would say, on STEM.
So this is now to like kind of transition from the classes and academics sort of thing. We can talk about the dorm and food here. Everyone's favorite topic. We have a couple of strong opinions here on dorm and food, but to start, so me and Tarun were both roommates. Like he can probably mention more about it. But so the dorm that we were in Smith dorm. It's not the greatest. It's like I'm 100% honest. Like a lot of like when you go on college tours and stuff, you'll see people try to like amp up their school as much as possible on the website. You'll try to amp up their school as much as possible. But to be brutally honest, dorms are not the greatest. At least our dorm. There are good, decent dorms there, but Smith is, I would not say up there. And then in terms of food, it's they did ramp. I think it was like more so there was like a transition period for like during the year that we were first years in terms of like the food there. So they're adding a lot more food options there like this coming out year. So there's going to be new options, but there were some issues with the dining hall, which I'll let you guys talk about. But yeah, if anyone wants to take this up, talk about sort of your experiences with the dormant food there and any gripes or compliments you have for it.
I would say for food, they definitely tried their best, all right, because they were transitioning and doing their own thing. So initially, there were days where like there were just straight up no food. Like, me and Maya went to dining halls and we saw an empty dining hall with just people there waiting for food. So it wasn't the greatest. And there were some days where they had way too much food, that no one could eat all that. So the food isn't the best, and the food usually is bad. Like I know the last few weeks of school, I just ate quinoa and beans because that was always reliable. It's always quinoa, beans, and pizza. Okay, that's like the 3M. Nothing else really was reliable. But I feel like if you go to like Reddit, Reddit is a great source of information, and you Google like your school and food or dorms, it'll be like listed pretty clearly. I know me and Maya we were in Smith. Oh, Google was yelling at me. But we went to Smith, and Smith, the dorm, was ranked the lowest dorm of all the dorms at Georgia Tech. But we still survived, all right? Like, it was bad, but like, you get used to not having AC, for example, all right? You get used to having like a highway right next to you. You get used to the disconveniences, all right? But end of the day, like, the dorm is just a place where you sleep and work, kind of. So, like, it would be nice if it was better, but you do get used to the pain and you do get used to the horrible food after a while. Like your first week without AC or any food sucks, but then you get used to it, all right? So keep that in mind. But yeah, do research beforehand. Try to like get a good dorm if you can. But yeah.
See, I would say like my experience was, of course, like different in terms of like the dorm, but he is right in terms of like the food. It is sometimes unreliable. Um, yeah, but they'll definitely like, improve it. Anyway, back to the dorm. You live in like a floor in one of these dorms, right? And there's like a RA for that, so that's like a resident advisor. And our RA was a really experienced one. I think he was like the most experienced one. So he was like a PhD student doing like I think computer science and like ethics or something. But basically, he kept the order on the floor, so everything went smoothly. I know we celebrated like everyone's like birthdays like at the end of the month, and we also had these like floor wide events and stuff. But yeah, like my experience wasn't as rough as Mehar or Tarun's. Um, yeah, like it's not too bad.
Yeah, and so I would have to agree with Akilish. So me and Akilish were actually roommates. We were in the same dorm, and our dorm was definitely a lot nicer than the one Mehar and Tarun got stuck in. I think the one thing when it comes to dorms is try to select your dorm early, like figure out what dorm you want and try to just go for that. Um, and I think I forget like dorm selection at least for first years, it's based on when you matriculate, right, to the school. Yeah. So if you know you want to go to Georgia Tech and you want to get a good first year dorm, I would say matriculate early, and sort of figure that stuff out earlier, because you definitely do not want to get stuck in a dorm like Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like Akira said, we were in Hanson, and our RA was fairly experienced. So I guess you just need to like try and scout out those good good dorms, and if you do, it's definitely not that bad at all. And even like what like Tarun was saying, even if you do end up getting stuck in a worse dorm, you'll get used to it with time, and at the end of the day, the dorm is just where you sleep and do some of your studying. But obviously, you can spend the rest of the day like outside. The libraries are really nice, so I'd highly recommend studying there and just going around, meeting people, going to classes, all that good stuff. In terms of food, I would have to agree with a lot of the complaints with the food. I know food can get interesting some days. And so, but I would say there's a lot of other fairly good like dining options. Like there are like food trucks and other things on campus that I would recommend going to probably instead of the dining hall if you can. I know there's like Twisted Taco, Chick-fil-A. Yeah, and what is the Japanese one? The bento bus, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that one's really good. Um, so yeah, I would try to like go to those more often if possible. And even if you figure out like if you know how to cook and you have all the cookware, I would try doing that. There's usually a kitchen on each floor, So you could definitely, if you know how to cook, just cook your own stuff too.
I wanted to mention one thing. The kitchen on each floor is we live in like luxury, all right? We don't have a kitchen. We don't have like a good dishwasher or anything. So like keep that in mind, all right? These people are coming from luxury, all right? I also wanted to mention that like the dorms could be somewhat sus also. Like you are in a college, so like keep in mind there are some really weird people. Sometimes me and Mira went, we smell like weed from like across. It's like a weekly basis. We smell like weed from another room, like smoke. So like keep that in mind. Talk with correct people. If you're gonna make friends with people in your dorm, make sure you're making friends with the correct people and not the people who do a crack in their room or something. So like be careful. You're in a college. You're no longer isolated in your parents' basement, for example, right? Like you're in college, so people are gonna do some weird stuff, especially in your dorm. So you gotta be careful about that. But yeah, just keep that as a warning.
I'd also like to say, like, so dorms are like important because I spent a lot of my time like studying. My whole study setup was in the dorm. I had like I think all of us here had like a monitor, a computer, like a whole. I had like a gaming setup as well, going there. So like, yeah, that's gonna be pretty important. So make sure you have like a good setup or something. Um, because you might still spend a lot of time studying because a lot of the work you're going to do is going to be on your computer regardless of what major you are. So,
Also, like there's so even in Smith dorm, like with like the stuff that we had to go through, we still met some like pretty cool people. Like especially like some of the people near us, like the room next to us, like they just kept giving us like free food whenever they had ordered extra. So it's like, and we like would talk to them a bunch, like we had to talk to them in the hallways and stuff. So like you can meet like some really great people, even if you're not in the best dorm. Like some of the people around you can be like really nice, and you can have like great experiences with them. So it's like not always a bad thing. I guess I saw one question in the Q&A, and we will get to that. One thing I want to talk about before that was, I guess, some sort of things about like every college, like there's like defined by the place within. There are some colleges that like are just in the middle of nowhere. There's just a college, but with us, we obviously have like Atlanta next to us. So I just want to like take some time to like talk about like this probably applies to like all schools that are in like a city or like stuff like that. But in terms of like Atlanta, in terms of like the buildings at Georgia Tech, the campus itself. So I think that like we can talk more about this. Like, but I think personally, the campus at Georgia Tech, well, like the buildings themselves, actually no, most of the buildings for the CS department are actually pretty nice. But there is like like some of the buildings are not the greatest. But I think sort of location of it within Atlanta, where you have like so many top companies and you have like so many great just like, food and fun options, it's definitely like a really big plus because in a big city you can do almost anything that you want. Like on a weekend you can go wherever you want, you can eat whatever you want. During the school days you can do whatever you want as well. And the campus itself, there are some like really great resources. Like I know, I think Viveek mentioned like the library. It's like it's a really great option to study there. There's like hundreds and hundreds of desks, and there's like multiple libraries as well. So, and also the option for Georgia Tech, at least for me and for a lot of other people, like the Atlanta airport is massive. You can literally fly from anywhere to Atlanta and then take like a 20-minute subway to get to Georgia Tech. Like, and it's really, really convenient. And depending on where you are, Frontier also flies there, and it's a great time. But I guess you guys can talk more about like what are your thoughts about the campus, Atlanta, and just your experience like with the area itself.
yeah, so one thing, when I like introduced Georgia Tech to a bunch of people, um, they always like asked about the security, like the safety on campus. That's something I would like to say. Like, it is very safe on campus. You have Georgia Tech police patrolling the area and the borders of the campus all the time. Anyone can come in from outside the city, but like very rarely do you see them. Like, I've rarely had to encounter like I don't know, like a stranger on the street. But yeah, like most of the time it's just students. Always, the police are always available. I've gone strolling through the campus like very late on the night as well, and it's pretty lit up, right? I'm talking like 12, 1:30 to like that's like it's still safe then, like all hours of the clock. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say so certainly campus is definitely safe. You have GTPD, the Georgia Tech Police Department, always patrolling the area. I will say, definitely don't venture out into the city. I mean, it's just common sense. Like, don't go there, odd times of the day, especially in the night. And just like be careful, So yeah, that would be mostly like my advice in terms of the location, campus. So yeah.
I want to say a story. I think second week, me and Mehar went to walk somewhere. Where did we go, Mehar? That one like food area?
It was like, oh, it's the Atlantic Station.
Yeah, we walked there and we went like walked a mile through like a really shady place. Don't do that, all right? Be smart. Like if you're gonna like walk around to at least places in the city, make sure you're going in a safe spot. That's what Vic was saying. Don't venture out. Don't like explore. Just like be safe. That's the main priority. But also, if you're in your campus area, the cops will be constantly everywhere, so you'll be safe. So yeah, I mean, it's not like most campuses are not dangerous. It's just if you do stupid stuff, it becomes dangerous, right? Also, if you go to a school that's not in like a really, if you go to a school that's not in a college, it's not in a city, for example, yeah, you're gonna have less options. But it's a college. There'll always be college-related events happening. Like I know Georgia Tech had like an event every few weeks, so that was pretty interesting to go to. We all went to a few events, and because we live in a city, we took advantage of that. We went to like restaurants, we Ubered eat like from local places every single week. We went to the zoo one week. We just like me and Mayhar went to some puppet museum, right? What was that?
Like some like Sesame Street Puppet Museum, because why not?
That was a great place, all right. If there's a local puppet museum near you, go there, okay? 100% recommend. But like there are many stuff to do, and if you're safe, if you're careful, you'll be safe.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get to some of the Q&A questions. So the first one, it says a little off topic. I'm going to answer this. If I'm looking to break into tech, what are some introductory classes I should do over the summer or even during the fall term? I guess my opinion on that is if like you haven't done any programming classes before, then definitely do like some sort of intro to programming class. There's like I don't even know like hundreds of like coding boot camps, online edX courses, random stuff like free college courses even that you can do to like get an intro to programming, like CS50 at Harvard as well. There's just like a bunch of courses you can do that provide that sort of advice to break into tech, and then they'll also like help ease your transition into like a first year as like a tech degree in any sort of field. Like it'll definitely help ease your transition into that, and it'll be a great head start to like actually get your head into the tech mindset as well.
And I think like it'd also be helpful to like this person seems to have like um the plan to get into tech. So if you get into tech, right, you can view like your degree requirements online. It's all listed on like an online catalog, and you can also see like the transfer equivalencies from your high school classes to like tech and like which ones will count for credit. And you can sort of get like a graduation plan going after that. Like everyone's like in a different graduation plan. I know Tarun here is trying to do it in 2 years only, and all of us are doing it in 3 years. Um, but yeah, like the classes you're taking in high school, like you can actually, if you just do a little bit of research, you might be able to get them to count for college credit, and that'll be really helpful. I think I saw like another question earlier, but they just deleted it. Anyway, I was relating to budgeting in college, and like the only times you actually spend money are like if you need to take like an exam or something to like skip a class, or you're just spending on like food or like Amazon. I know like we had like an Amazon locker close by, so ordering stuff off Amazon was like a pretty regular thing. But yeah, like you're not going to spend too much additional like money. Maybe just like how would you say like a few $100, like over the whole year. I probably only spent like a few $100, and majority of it being on food.
Well, I guess the other major expense is like textbooks if you have to get them. I would try to look for textbooks online. Sometimes some classes are annoying in that they make you purchase the textbook in order to get an access code to do your homework. So I guess you can't do it in those cases. But yeah, usually like you might spend max like 150 to 200 on textbooks a semester. But yeah, again, I would try to like look around, talk to maybe some upperclassmen. They might have some textbooks, or really, if you can, just like look for it online. I know there's some like resources and like websites where you can get textbooks. But yeah, definitely in terms of budgeting, I think a lot of similar to Keelish, a lot of my expenses in college were food related. So just like ordering food from like DoorDash, Uber Eats, and whatnot. So yeah.
I wanted to mention, if you go to a school with good food, you most likely won't have the grade. You won't have the highest food budget. Our school had horrible food, so we spent a lot more money on food. So I was like, food is a big thing, but based on the college you go to, it can be less. One thing I will, as Akilas mentioned, I will always advocate is before you start college, plan out all your years. Like, it doesn't have to be a perfect analysis. Like, I have like 20 different versions of my schedule planned out, but like by doing that, you can see if you can graduate early. In high school, you gotta do 4 years. You can't do high school in 1 year or 2 years. But in college, you can do college in 2 3 years. And the thing is, you're paying for every year. So the faster you graduate, the cheaper it is, right? So like what I realized, hey, if I take these the college class, like the community college classes plus my AP classes, I was able to graduate in 2 years without much difficulty. So I did it in 2 years. I'm planning to do it in 2 years. The only way I knew this by like planning it all out beforehand. So again, you mentioned the entire like classes you need to graduate is nicely listed on the college website. Just Google like your school's name, your major, and like degree requirement. It's all on there, and it's very easy to plan it out. In general, like you take like 18 credits, 19 credits, like a high amount of classes. You can take 15. And so if each class is around 3 credits and if taking 18 is a good amount, you can kind of plan out like 6 classes and you can like do it like that. Again, community college classes are really off. Just do those. I really recommend it. But planning it out is like one major thing I would highly recommend you do before you start anything.
Yeah. And I think like another big thing is this is like for Georgia, it's for like if you're Georgia, since Georgia Tech is a public college, and a lot of like the big colleges that people apply to are like public universities. So if you're within the state that they're in, you can get a lot of advantages when it comes to like the whole like community college classes will transfer better. You'll get like severely discounted tuition as well. So if you're like trying to consider any colleges, like choose between different colleges, then choosing one that's in your state, if it's like similar ranking to the other ones, then it's definitely a big advantage, especially if it's like a public university. I think someone posted a question for a coding job. How do you show that you meet your requirements? That's like it's different than a university thing, but just generally to answer that question, it's usually in the form of like some sort of like interview process. So they'll usually ask you like questions from like LeetCode question. LeetCode is basically like a website that, yeah, Google LeetCode if you haven't. So it's basically a like website that gives a bunch of like programming questions, like weird like puzzle type questions that like people will often ask you when you're interviewing for companies. And then based on how you do for that and like an actual like behavioral like who are you? Are you like a psychopath? Like who are you? Why do you want to join our company? Like behavioral type interview. Then that like the combination of those two basically shows off your skills. I don't know how to anything on that.
I can go next. So when you're applying for companies, you should apply like as early as possible. Like August is a good time to apply. If you apply in January, most of the spots are already filled. And for CS at least, which is what we can talk about, LeetCode is like the king of everything. So LeetCode is the company will ask you a technical coding question. It's like not really CS, like a puzzle kind of CS thing. It's like here's a problem. Can you build an algorithm to solve it? And if you just do a lot of LeetCode practice problems on your own time, you can like learn it yourself. There are a lot of common patterns. LeetCode is kind of like the SAT for college admissions, but for jobs. It's like a standardized way of seeing how well you are in algorithmic stuff. So if you take most colleges have something called data structures and algorithms. If you take that class, it will prepare you for LeetCode enough. So if you're doing LeetCode now without any experience, it's going to be the hardest thing in the world. So like keep in mind, LeetCode is hard. It's a very hard thing. But if you take data structures and algorithms, the class, it will prepare you correctly. Or if you don't want to do that, I know CS50, which you mentioned, has a good data structures and algorithm course which you can take. But yeah, Apply early, big thing. Study leak code if you're doing CS, also big thing. Resume is a huge thing. Make sure your resume is really well made. And if you can Google, you can go into a whole like class on how good resumes are. Like resumes have keyword analysis and like you got to write your stuff correctly to be more efficient. So yeah, be careful about that. Resume is a big thing. Yeah, make sure you for behavioral stuff you have stories that show like your leadership skills. I know for Amazon there are like 10 or 15 different leadership principles. So when you're doing like a behavioral thing beforehand, come up with a few like stories that show how good you are, and tie those stories to like company's values. So then when they ask you in a behavioral thing, can you tell me a story about this? You already have a story like thought off in your head, and you already know it's like show all the leadership principles. So you don't need to like be struggling in your head like while there to think of a story if you already do it beforehand. Again, there's something called CS Careers Dev Discord. It goes over a lot of stuff. Your school's Discord server will go over like career wise stuff too. It's like yeah, there's many tools you can do. It's a whole like hobby kind of thing. It's like just dive deep into it. It's pretty fun. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do.
Yeah. I think that's like one final question they asked since we're running a little bit long on time. Is basically someone was asking me like how like the different paths like the majors are. So I guess in Georgia Tech, like for at least CS, I'm not sure if it is for aerospace, but you can talk more about that. We have like threads that we have that you can like choose between, and basically like there's a bunch of different threads like intelligence or like modeling or media or people, like a bunch of different like threads that each have their own like courses and like specializations within them. Then you just take two threads and like combine the courses in whichever way you would like, and you can just combine it in a way that like suits what you want to do. Combine it in a way that like you can speed one the fastest way out of here, or like combine it in a way to like take the most credits. Like there's a bunch of different ways you can do it, and it basically lets you like customize your own degrees. Each person has like a different degree than the person next to them. Vic, do you want to talk a little bit about? I don't know if there's threads for Arrow, but however the course of the design.
Yeah, so for Aero, it works a little differently. So aerospace engineering, pretty much there's like two specializations. Either you go more into the aeronautic side, which is a lot of the aircraft and drones and whatnot, or you go into the space side, which is all the space vehicles, satellites, rockets, etc. So I'm personally doing the space side because that's what interests me the most. And so, yeah, a lot of the classes. So a lot of the classes that you take are similar between those two specializations. And really, like you only sort of specialize in your senior year when you take your senior design and like some of your last 4,000 upper classman level courses. But other than that, a lot of it's standardized across whichever like discipline you go into. And obviously, if you do one side, you can definitely still get jobs in the other. So a lot of the skills do transfer between those.
I wanted to mention one quick thing as what Kiyosh and what Amvika and Meha was saying. Undergrad, your bachelor's degree, 50% of it is gen ed. Like 50% is not related to what you're doing. Like as Mehar was saying, gen ed is everyone is doing it. Like aerospace is doing, CS is doing, like agriculture is doing, for example. These are the classes you can get done with community college class credits or with AP credits. Those are the easy ones. It's harder to get in community college class or an AP class to count as like an upper level CS or aero class. But for gen ed, you can get it to count. And if gen ed is half your degree, you can do half your degree beforehand, kind of. So keep that in mind. You're going to bachelor's means you're doing 50% gen ed and 50% your thing. Master's degree, for example, is 100% your thing. But bachelor's degree is 50% gen ed. So think about that when you're planning stuff out.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add? Or...
No, I'm just thinking of stuff that might want to know.
Also, on the resume side of things, there's also going to be like a session tomorrow where I'm going to talk a little bit about like some tools to build resumes. So if you guys are interested in that, you can join that tomorrow. Yeah. If there's nothing else to add, then I think we can probably end it here. I don't think there's any more questions that I got. So thank you guys for coming out. Thank you guys for presenting. And yeah, thank everyone here for coming to like the first day of Aegis Navigator, like the YSP program. And it's been really great seeing a lot of people coming in too. So yeah, thank you guys. All right.